But there's some that want to target an entire market. There are some that want to target one city, and it's never a one size fits all. So it's always important to have your solution custom to who you want to find, where you want to find them, and what you want to do for them. You know.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Business Blind Spots Exposed podcast. I'm going to call it BBSC because, gosh, that's so long. It's descriptive, but it's really long. So BBSC, let me tell you first what BBSC is all about. So as a guy who's been trying to be someone aware and self-improve throughout the course of things, after all the college and schooling and stuff that I went through, I realized that just being a smart guy isn't enough. You need to continue to be smarter. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's all the blind spots, the stuff that I can't see that is the problem. And how do you get that? Perspectives, others. And I have continually invested in building my network of people and bringing experts into what I'll call a phone call away so that I know who I can lean on whenever I have questions. Part of the reason I have all the people that I have on this podcast, because they're experts in their own right. They're geniuses in their own right. And why does that all matter is because as a company, we use data that helps you understand the narrative behind the culture in your company. We take all that data and help you say, hey, here's what's going right or wrong. But if you don't know the story, if you don't have the expert perspective, it kind of doesn't matter. So today, I've got Kim Bennett from WordJack Media, who is our social media and marketing genius, who I bring to the table today. Hey, how you doing, Kim?
Hey, Vinay. So thank you so much for having me today. This is exciting, and for the great, kind compliments. I didn't realize I was such a genius, but thank you.
Well, anytime I've had questions, I've always asked you, and I always get simple answers, which is so. I love a quote from Albert Einstein that says, "If you can't explain it in one sentence, you don't get it." And most times, you give me the one sentence answer, and then you explain more to me if I need it, which I absolutely love.
Yep.
But today we're talking to Kim. Kim Bennett worked for WordJack Media, and the title of our topic is, and I think we might cover a lot of potential top things here, Social and Content Marketing Blind Spots by the Numbers. She has been there and done that for a lot of companies and getting them set up and consulting with them and helping them build a strategy and plan. So I think there's lots of blind spots that she's seen that companies just don't see themselves. So you guys don't have to keep listening to me talk. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Kim, and I got a question already teed up for you, Kim. So
Awesome.
I was just telling you, I learned something about Kim, which is really interesting. She's a native of North Carolina, but she's got a 300-year history in the Appalachian Mountains, which I think is such a cool statistic, or fact, I should say. You said 1710 is when your family first came to the area?
Yeah, 1710, and that's Western North Carolina, Hendersonville, Asheville area. So back then there was no Hendersonville, but yeah, that's when.
Did you all hang on to the land? Because I got to imagine that's probably worth a lot now.
No, I think the Vanderbilt's got a lot of that. So.
Well, graduate of UNC Charlotte, 20 years of experience, sales, marketing, advertising, touched all types of media, print, radio, digital. And I love your sort of that whole giver's gain spirit. You're always giving to others, and you are truly passionate about helping others reach their potential.
Yeah.
I think you have a broad range of experience. I mean, some of the things you've listed here, you're working with trades, home improvement services, automotive, education, government. I think what I love most about your background is that you have, while you spanned all of these, there's a central message that resonates with all of these companies. So maybe that's where we'll start first. I mean, with all these companies you see, what are the common questions that people have, or sort of the blind spots, the things that they don't understand about marketing in general?
Well, marketing in general, it's, there's so many different factors that can affect your tactics for marketing, based on what your business is. If you know your target demographic, who you want to reach, who your audience is, that's a great first step. And that's usually what I start with anybody I'm talking to about, improving their marketing is, okay, who are we trying to reach? Because it's very important to know who they are so that you can know how to find them. Because if you're looking for homeowners, that's great, but you need to know, homeowners where, who is that, where's that service territory? What are you actually looking to focus on? Is it any homeowner? A lot of pest control companies, for example, will say, yeah, any homeowner, or anybody that lives in a place that they want to remove pests. Okay, great. But if you're looking for, $500,000 and up roof replacements, then you can't focus on just anybody. There's a ton of variables depending on the business that you're working with, or that you represent. So you need to make sure that you understand that. You also need to understand your competition. Who else is in this market? What makes them different? What makes you different? Why are you someone that a customer should choose over your competition? So there's a lot of different variables that go into the structure of how to determine the best next steps for marketing. If we're talking about digital marketing, then you want to make sure that you know who are those key players that you're going to be competing with that are buying different advertising, like Google AdWords, or, putting campaigns on Facebook and other social media. And what are your strengths there? If you don't have someone in-house who is able to do your marketing for you, who knows all the new and ever-changing strategies to put forth, then you're at a disadvantage. But there are a lot of different opportunities to expand your business by aligning with people that, are a marketing team that can be put in place outsourced, not a new employee, not a whole marketing company. So there's a lot of options to really build out your marketing without you having to become that marketing expert as the business owner. Because when you went into business, you didn't say, oh, I want to open this business so that I can put on a marketing hat and figure out how to get it marketed. No, you went into it because you have a passion of some sort, whether that's build the business so that you can retire, or because you just love what you're doing. So having a team of experts on your side working for you is hugely important.
So I always like to try to distill things into what I'll call the blind spots, right? So that there's always some takeaway messages for people. And I think the first one that I've heard is in all of that, and I think there's a bunch of things to unpack there. The first one is I heard is this idea of focus, right? If you get your target demographic, if I want to sell brand, I don't know, an addition to the house, or
Remodeling.
driveway resurfacing, I'm
Yeah,
probably not going to go after a neighborhood that's brand new, because they're not going to be buying a dirt driveway. They just got it.
exactly.
So you can say, well, hey, I don't want to miss on opportunities, but by being laser focused, why would you spend even $5 on people who just bought a house? They're never going to buy it. But if
Right.
you spend it on all the people who've gotten in a neighborhood that's been there for 40 years, well, there might be a number more. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. So, those new home buyers, if they're buying a newly built home, then yeah, that aspect of things is taken care of. So that would not be your target market. Now, I mean, in the future, 5 years down the road, once things have a chance to settle, that would be a good one to focus on. But you're going to want to look at who's already in the market for what you have to offer. So if we're talking about concrete resurfacing, or, repaving, those types of things, then you want to look at the aged um, neighborhoods in your community that you work with. And in order to do that, you need to do a little bit of research. So my background, actually, in college, I was a history major. So research was my jam, still is. That's what I do all the time. It's always research. How are things positioned currently so that you can be found by the actual people in the market for what you're doing? Because you can share your information through branding and get your name out there, and you can post on social media all you want. But if you're actually targeting your message to people who are more likely to be looking for what you have, then you're going to be way more successful while you continue to build that brand image with people who may not yet be in the market for it.
So we talk about this idea of focus, but then as you start to become focused, it makes it much easier for you to tune your message. Because if I'm talking about, do you have a driveway that's 15 years old? Well, it automatically rules out all the people who just bought a house and they're not even listening anymore, right? So by the same token, if you bought a brand new house, you probably don't have pest control services either. Right? So that's probably the right time to say, hey, you just made an investment in a house. Don't you want to live there comfortably? Right? I mean, so I think your point is that the message that you deliver via marketing becomes so much easier and receivable by the people that you're targeting.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what I distilled out of that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You want the people who are actively shopping for your service, or who should be. Maybe they haven't realized that they have a problem, but when they see your messaging, then they might start to think, oh, wait, you know what? That is kind of a pain in my world. I think I do need a solution for that. And, because you're able to target geographically, demographically, all sorts of different, options on, as far as social media is concerned, you can focus on people's activities, things they enjoy, all sorts of different aspects of who they are, what they believe, what they like, what they look at. There's tons and tons of ways to really hone in on who that person is that you're looking for. For example, I have a client who has a school, and their school is different. It's a private school, and not everyone is going to want to send their children to this specific school. But by honing in on specific demographics and specific interests, we can target the exact audience that needs to see the message.
So I'm here that once, okay, gosh, so these are kind of cascading here, right? I mean, and this is probably what is so elegant for you. You've kind of done this so many times, it's kind of routine, but I think this is the process that everyone needs to start to think about. Is first you need to learn who you're focusing on. Once you learn who you're focusing on, then you get your message right. Once you get your message right, then you do the research as to what are the pain, the challenges, the plight of those people that you're trying to serve, so that you can bring that to the forefront. So you can do the research. So give me an example of like an obscure, I don't know, obscure market or a group that you're trying to get to, and what is the research that was done to fix that or solve that problem?
Well, for example, there's a business who focuses on legacy photography. So not everyone would necessarily think, oh, I need a beautiful heirloom portrait of my family in my home. The thing is, why not? You have a family, you love your family. It's a great thing to have to pass down to generation after generation after generation. But for some reason, we discredit ourselves into thinking that's just not something that I need. No, you don't need it, but why wouldn't you want it? So in order to bring that to fruition, it was a brilliant idea that, hey, let's give away a complimentary photograph portrait. And this is a discussion I was having with the potential client. She was telling me the strategy, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant, because now you're getting people who may have normally been like, that's not for me. I can't afford it. It's not my thing. And now she's bringing them in because there's nothing for them to lose. They're only gaining this experience and this product by having, this complimentary gift. And then they see the value of it when they have it right there in their hands, and they have their whole family dressed, all ready to go. Why not? Right? So it was a brilliant tactic. And I thought that it was just something I should, share as a really cool strategy. And, the way that she was finding the people to bring them in was through social media.
So I think what I'm hearing there is, as you start to tune down to who you want to get to, that actually changes the method by which you do the research, right? So if that may or may not have worked using a phone book or some other, print ads or something like that. I don't know that anybody uses a phone book.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know why I brought that up.
Well, there are some places, I guess, that have phone books, but most people do have a phone in their hand.
That's right.
People are spending most of their time on their mobile devices, and 98% of them are using it for social media. So
Yeah, I don't even think I have phone books. I'm not even sure why that came up. But but
Okay.
the point is how you target your research kind of changes. So it's not a one size fits all for the research either, right? Because as
No,
you start to change your message, your research changes based on that. That's what you guys that's what you bring to the table as part of the
absolutely. It's
process.
custom. You shouldn't ever buy into a cookie cutter solution because every single business is different. Even if it's two pest control companies, they are different. I promise you, because I've never met two that are the same. And I know a lot of pest control companies because that's a great conversation for us to have. Um, you don't target the same people for all of those things because not everyone has the same pests.
So so this is really interesting. You know, when I talk to lots of companies and business owners, they say I'm in the business of, and we've been using pest control. So let's kind of keep pulling on that thread. I'm in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and two pest control companies do residential pest control. And they say, "Well, yeah, I'm just a pest control company." There's a huge differentiation still, right? In the
Absolutely.
types of services, how the service is delivered. I mean, pricing is a type of differentiation. What is the experience? What is the culture of the company? All those things shift a lot of how they go to the company. But I feel like so many people still discount themselves and say, yeah, I'm just another pest control company. But I'm hearing from you that's not true.
No, it's not true at all. Pest control companies, like, and I'm so glad we're talking about them because I do have a lot of insight on it. I have one pest control company I talked to recently who focused on ants and termites. That was their focus. They weren't interested in anything else. And then I have pest control companies that aren't focused on termites in any way. They're more interested in just, cockroaches and the regular pests that invade the home. So you really have to hone in on, okay, what do you want to be found for? Because if you just say pest control, you can get a whole lot of nuisance calls that aren't going to do you any good. You're going to waste the customer's time, waste your time because you haven't identified what it is that you actually want to be found for that's your specialty in that industry.
So that's really interesting because I'm just kind of relating a lot of this to the personal experience. I mean, the home that I'm living in is about 4.5 years old, so relatively new still. And when we bought the place, the guy who, the builder said, look, one of the problems that you should be aware of is that when we knock down all these forests with all these pine trees, especially in North Carolina, there are always these termite hives that are just under the ground in every square acre. So he said you might find 20 or 30 of them. I don't remember the number. It was a significant number. It wasn't one. But to date, I still haven't had a single company come to me and tell me, hey, we can take care of termites yet, which makes a lot of sense. And I just haven't taken the time to pick up the phone or search on the web to find it. But it seems like that's almost exactly the niche that somebody could say, hey, I do termites. Let me tell all the new developments. That's what we do because look, you've got a brand new home. You don't want to start rotting from the inside out, or you don't want termite damage to start from the day one, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's that goes back to like the keywords that you want to be found for online. So if you have a business and you're not getting traffic to your website, there's a reason. People are searching for things that I'm sure relate to your business. But if you haven't put that information out there so that Google, other search engines can see it and recognize you as an authority and credible source of information for that search topic, you're never going to be found for it. So if you do termites and you're in pest control, definitely talk about the fact that you do termite inspection, termite removal. And if you are, doing bed bug removal, which isn't something that all pest control companies do, you want to talk about that because that's how you get that particular piece of your business to gain traffic and traction online.
All right. So there's one camp of people who say, "Look, I'm pest control. Every pest control is kind of the same. There's nothing to differentiate." And I think we've addressed that here. That look, even if you think you're in the same business, you're not because there are just differentiations in what services you provide and how you provide it,
Mhm.
and what types of people you provide it to. There's the other end of the spectrum which says, "I am really, really specialized. I'm the only one that does this." I mean, have you ever run across companies that say that?
Yeah. I've run across companies that say that.
And how do you respond to that? And when they say I'm do something that's so unique, there are no keywords. There's nobody knows what to call me. So that's sort of the other end of the spectrum. I mean, is that true either?
Okay, so they have a solution that responds to some problem that people are having. What is that problem? Because I guarantee if someone's having a problem, they have Googled it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly why they need that information within their content online. Because otherwise, why would you have that as an offering for your service or for your business?
So what I'm hearing from that is if you think it is so unique, well, first of all, if no one's searching for it, then there's no demand for it either. uh,
Exactly.
if if you think it's so unique and people are looking for it, what are they looking for? What are they typing into Google to find it? And it may not be the words that you use, but that kind of doesn't matter. It kind of matters the words that they're using, isn't that right?
Absolutely, yes, because industry jargon is irrelevant if your customers don't know it. So you want to go to your customers where they are. I think you mentioned that earlier. Like you want to go to them and respond to what they're going to be asking for. That's how you can maximize your footprint online and get more traction and more of the leads that you're actually looking for. You don't want to go sharing industry jargon that no one's ever heard of and then expect to get results, because the very first thing that we do when we bring on a new client is a keyword analysis to see how many searches are there for the words that relate to what you want to be found for. Not the words in your industry, the jargon, more the words people are actually searching month after month.
So, look, we've got a couple people who've been listening in, and I've just been peppering you with questions because this is all. But I mean, again, every time I listen to you talk, I get something out of it. So, if there's anybody online, just tell us where you're from. Do you have this focus? Do you know who your target demographic is? Have you ever taken the time to write it down, or is it all in your head? I suspect a lot of people it's probably in their head and they've never written it down, Kim, based on all the companies that you worked with. So chime in. Tell us if you've defined your target demographic and you figured out your focused market and who you're going to. I'd be kind of curious what you came up with. Um, Kim, talk to me about this idea of what people are searching for on Google, for example, or what they're just searching for in general, and keywords. That's a little bit of confusion for me, right? I mean, there's keywords in what you search for. Are they the same thing? Are they different? How does that all fit together?
Yeah, so if you think of the search engine, you go and you type in a question or you type in something you're looking for. Let's say you're looking for a restaurant in Raleigh to go to dinner to, because you don't want to go to the same ones you always go to. You're looking for a new one. So restaurant Raleigh, those are your keywords, the thing you want and the location. If a business is a restaurant and they have that listed as what they are and within their website content restaurant, they're going to be more likely to populate as long as they're in Raleigh. So if there wasn't something, in Raleigh, it would be something, nearby Raleigh that would show up that had that keyword. So I don't know if that helps at all to decipher that, but something a little bit more obscure might be, let's see, cockroaches in the basement, right? Okay. So if someone's written a blog about how to get rid of cockroaches in the basement, then they're going to show up more likely because those are the keywords that someone typed into the search that corresponds to what they've put into their website, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the keywords are really just the elements of the search sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the various. Okay. So keywords are part of what someone types in. So I want to shift a little bit here because I've heard a couple of really good blind spots here in terms of focusing on a demographic allows you to tune your message, which allows you to figure out what kind of research to do, so that you can figure out what services you provide and how you provide it to them. So that allows you to further tune exactly what you're trying to say, so you can get exactly to the words that they're using, the questions that they're asking. Right. So it's kind of that process to getting really refined. So you walk into a company what where are they in this journey? I mean, do most people have this all written down? They know exactly what their target market is. They know exactly what questions they have. I'm guessing no.
No. I mean, it varies. It depends on, how long they've been established and how much thought they've put into it. If, they open their doors and they've just been going after the customers and they haven't put a whole lot of thought into it, they probably know. But what I give them the opportunity to do is really think it through and think, okay, what do I want my website and my online presence to achieve for me? Who do I want it to achieve from? Like, who are my customers? What do they look like? Where are they located? That sort of thing. Who are my competition? Putting all those things in place, because I hone in and make them take the time to really focus in on that piece of the puzzle. Because without that, we really don't have any direction on which way to go. So it's not, I wouldn't say never does anyone have it. A lot of companies have stepped up their game and developed, mission statements, vision, core values, all those types of things. And then also ask themselves, who do we want as our clients and where do we want it? So I wouldn't say never, but for it to be top of mind, not so much, because they're in the working of the business. They are in their day-to-day grind of making their business run. So that's my opportunity to be that resource for them, to allow them to really think a little bit differently than what they normally do.
If you could get potential or prospective customers to ask you a question, what kind of questions would you have them ask you? Because it seems like a lot of people don't know what they don't know, so they don't know how to ask either. What are the types of questions that they should be asking?
What is the value of having a team of experts rather than one person to handle my marketing? Because a lot of times I do see businesses have one person that is in charge of all things marketing. Now, that one person is limited by their own knowledge, experience, and availability. If you have a whole team of subject matter experts that stay in their lane and work together with synergy, then you're going to get much better results than having one person trying to be a jack of all trades in marketing.
That makes sense. I mean, the idea is that you can try to be a 7 in a bunch of categories. You can be a 10 in one category and let someone else be the 10 in all the other categories for you.
Right. Exactly.
It's hiring an amateur to do a professional's job ends up costing you more in the long run.
Yeah,
is the idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What else? What other things do you think would, what are the questions that you ask of people that kind of shows you where they are in that journey or in that maturity?
Well, I ask them about their social media posting habits. So how often do you post on social media, and who handles that is generally something I'll ask. And 8 or 9 times out of 10, I'll get, I want to, I meant to, I just haven't had time yet. And I get it, because sometimes it's hard for me to do that for myself. So it makes sense. But it is always easier for someone else to do those things than for you to check off all of the boxes on everything, because eventually you're going to have a priority list and those things are going to fall to the bottom because it's not your expertise. It's not really something that gets you excited. So it's not going to come to the top of that list at any time soon. So hand it to somebody that likes doing it.
I mean, because one of the things I've learned, and this seems to not be true for just marketing, but it's pretty much anything, is consistency of applied effort. I mean, I think about this idea of 1% improvement every day. I'm not trying to go for the home run every single time. Just every day, 1%, and just keep doing it. I think that applies to social media because, and you tell me, right? I mean, you put a post out there and then someone may not see it for another 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that since it was there 3 weeks ago, it was now available for them to see it and that becomes a follower, or that becomes someone who comments on your post. So
Well,
isn't that what it's all about? I mean, isn't that part of it? Is just that consistency of
it
delivery?
is, yeah, it is part of it because if you're looking at doing business with someone and you go to their Facebook page and you look and they haven't posted since 2017, you're going to wonder if they're still in business because they haven't done that. But if they're consistently posting, then you're going to see some of their previous work. Like my handyman, for example, he does amazing work and he posts before and after. And before I hired him, I'm like scrolling through, looking at all of the fantastic before and after photos. And it was meaningful to me because I was about to make an investment with him. And I wanted to know for sure that he had the skills that I needed to accomplish the project I had at hand. So that is very meaningful. But also, it does add to how you're found online based on your name. So if someone searches your name and your posts have the right content and the right information for whatever else they're searching for, or if they just happen to, be searching for what you've been posting about, you're going to show up higher than other people because you're in the right place with the right information. And posting to your audience is important, but it's not the only strategy that you need to put in place. If you're trying to acquire new clients and build your audience, then Facebook, for example, is a little bit more pay to play than it used to be. It's affordable compared to a lot of options, but it is a very useful tool to get those messages out there. Because if you have a couple hundred, a few hundred followers or likes on your page, that's great. But those few hundred people, they know you already. So you want to get your name out there to the people that don't know you yet, so you can build that audience even more and get people to have a strong call to action.
So one thing that I heard from someone, and I would love to hear what your opinion on this is. I used to always think, I mean, at some point in time, it was all about, in the past on websites, it was all about the number of clicks, but
Mm-hmm.
clicks don't really mean anything anymore because people can click means whether they click through is actually more important, right? The same way with followers, just how many people you get to view a post is not really as important as the number of focused people who've kind of followed through that post and engage in that post. So depending on the platforms, and there's so many platforms now, that's another source of confusion, I think. Uh, it's how do you build that engagement? And part of that is you just got to constantly putting a message out there in a consistent strategy. And that's how you guys help. Is that right?
Yeah. So consistent, not necessarily constant. You don't want to over post to your audience. You don't want to have too much out there that they just tune you out. But if you have a nice frequency as well as a good message and keep them interested, you're going to gain engagement. But when you're doing paid advertising, actually having a landing page that's built for that ad with a call to action so that they can know what's the next step I need to take, whether that's call, message, come in, go to the website, whatever it is, you want to have that message be very, very clear so that they can take action, which is your engagement from that post. Not necessarily just likes or views, but actually the action that they take to do something. And then one thing that you had mentioned before as well is how many clicks on your site or on your ads. Clicks are a good measurement tool, but I wouldn't say they're, the only one. You can have, a few thousand people come visit your website every month, but if they are bouncing away from your website because it's not what they expected or not loading fast enough because they don't have patience to wait, which we just don't. We're in a busy society. We rush. So if your page isn't loading fast enough, you're going to lose those people before they can convert into actual customers. So, there's a whole lot to think about when you're planning out your marketing and how you want to engage with your customers.
Um, my company, Karma, we do focus a lot on data.
Mhm.
Marketing seems it's rife with data. There's data coming out of people's ears sometimes. Uh, is it all necessary? And does it all help? I mean, something like clicks, right? I mean, it's not the be all end all. data, it gives you some component of it. It's a small little snapshot of the whole story of what's happening in that customer journey. Talk to me about data a little bit. How do you think about data, and how do you talk to companies about that data?
Yeah. So when I'm looking at how a website's performing,
Mm-hmm.
I look at how many people have come to the website, how long did they stay on the website, were they a new person to visit the website, or have they been before? And then what pages were they looking at? What was really getting their attention? Did they come in through an ad? Did they come in through social media? Did they come from a referral link? There's tons of different places and pieces of information that you can glean to know what's working really well. And you wouldn't want to base any decision or any plans on just one piece of data, because that can be misconstrued. There could be something else that has happened to cause a lot more traffic or a lot less traffic. But you want to look at the whole picture rather than just looking at one piece of data. So impressions are great, actions are better.
So Gerald kind of chimed in here and said, clicks don't transfer to a bank account balance column.
That's right. They don't, but you can find out how to make more clicks happen to turn into clients.
So, this is interesting because I think I always like to understand sort of the story here, the deeper story here, and I think what I'm hearing is the click is almost like the first chapter of the storybook, right?
Yeah.
It's just beginning. That's all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. It gives you a way to quantify what's happened with your website, your marketing, your social media, whatever it is that you're measuring. It's just one quantifiable piece.
So, I mean, if we think in terms of kind of how you focus your message, I mean, if you focus on that demographic, and I feel like I'm repeating some of these things just so we can be consistent in kind of that message there, or in that pathway there. Focus on your demographic. Focus on the message going to that demographic. You do the research around it. That's what the click does. It kind of confirms that, all right, maybe you have somebody here who you've kind of piqued their interest. Oh, yeah, I do have a house that's 38 years old, and my driveway is kind of getting a little beat up. Maybe I do need a new driveway, a new resurfacing. I want to find out more. And
Right.
that's they're just anteing in just a little bit of their time. And that's kind of how people are voting with their time, essentially, by making that click, right? Saying,
Right.
I'm interested. Potentially tell me more, right?
Yeah. So then you have to think about the user experience once they've clicked. Is it engaging with them? Is it answering what they were, what their curiosity was piqued about, so that they can take the next step?
So how does that, I mean, so you start from a click, you start to understand, the new people, the people have come to the pages, what pages they spent, where they went, where they spent their time. That kind of, so as you start to refine your message, you're kind of starting to build this funnel throughout the process, right? Do we understand this? Because is anything started dropping through to the next stage? I mean, that's in sales. I always think about funnels. I mean, it's the same thing in
Yeah,
marketing too, right?
exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, you can just determine what is that next step. So if they've come to your website because of your message from an ad, and they're engaged with your content and they take the next step, well, then after that next step, it's the business's responsibility to respond to that inquiry, whatever it is, and handle it from there. So it's essentially the start of the funnel again.
So why don't more people do this? I mean, it seems so simple. Well, let me take that back. It seems like there's a clear process to doing. There's a clear roadmap here to do that. Why don't people go down that path? Why do people get stuck?
Which path are you referring to?
Well, just kind of this whole idea of figuring out who I want to go to, what is my message to them, doing my research, and then kind of figuring out the words, and then putting it in a place that they can see it, and then they'll start coming to my website or wherever I do this. Is it just the time and the effort and the patience and
The
probably
know-how and understanding of how things work together. Yeah, there's a bit to it. Yeah. It seems simple on the outside, and then you look at how you actually go into it. Because I'll tell you, I can lose a lot of time if I'm trying to perfect something online, just from being like super, super critical. And who's going to be more critical than the person that owns the business or is running the marketing for a business? They're really devoting their time to it. On the other side, you can have someone else do it. They can show it to you, and you can say, change this thing, and then it's perfect. Didn't have to be tedious, didn't have to be grinding. Done.
So the first thought that came to mind is whenever we try to decide, hey, we're going to get the house cleaned up a little bit, right? It's funny when we tell our kids clean up the house, their definition of clean up the house is someone from the outside. But Dad, I want that. You haven't played with that in 9.5 months. What do you mean you still want it? And there's 48 things that fall into that category. When the person from the outside, I haven't seen that move in 6 weeks, so that goes into the cabinet.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what I'm hearing from you is right. There's that not that bias, which actually is kind of in your benefit because you're not emotionally tied to it.
Exactly.
And also that person who's clicking on the website, they're not spending 30 minutes laboring over whether it was the right thing to click. They said, I'm interested. That's it. Right?
Exactly. It's instant interest or instant disinterest. And, when it's interest, it grows from there.
So how do you see all this? Because, a lot of this just comes back in the form of graphics. If you look at Google Analytics, it gives you all these fancy graphs and things like that, but it doesn't. I've looked at it. I've got a background in data and analytics, and I still don't feel like I understand it all. How do you translate what you see in Google Analytics or from any other tool? How do you translate that into saying, all right, this is what I need to do next?
Well, I think that the most important thing to any business owner is actually seeing results that are closed business, from new customers. And I think that's a good starting point when you think about your next message. What worked? You have to look at what worked to get the leads that came in and then replicate.
And I think what I'm hearing there is just this simple idea that forget about the perfection stuff. Focus on trying to get something done, screw it up, or find out what you did right. And lean into what you did right.
Yeah, well, you always want to, learn from the previous month or the previous quarter or the previous year so that the next month, quarter, and year can be even better. And you're always building upon what you've done before. Having so many different factors that can affect how you're being found by your ideal customers. There's a lot to it. And, I've talked to business owners who have been like, I feel like I should have a degree in marketing because I've spent so much of my time on it and I just don't want to do it. I never got into this for that. I just don't want to do it anymore. And that's great because I wouldn't want to be the pest control business. That's not my forte. I don't know how to do that, but we can definitely help, figure out the marketing so that everybody can do what they have as their, zone of genius, we'll say, so that they can be more fruitful in all of their accomplishments.
So tell me, well, I'll call it the fairy tale. Tell me some fairy tales. Where did you approach a company? What did you guys do for them? And where did they end up? And was it what they expected? Or is the end always what is expected? Or is it you kind of have to figure it out as you go along? Talk me through a story like that, or a story or two.
Sure. A couple of years ago, I had a client come to me and he had been through 2 or 3 different marketing companies and had been burnt. He had the cookie cutter solutions in place and he wasn't feeling like he was getting his business to the level he wanted it to be. He was ready. Mm-hmm.
And look, you've used that word, and I want to make sure that you and I are on the same page. What do you mean by cookie cutter? How can you tell when a company is cookie cutter and when it's not?
When all of the websites that particular company build are exactly the same. They have a model where the name goes here, the phone number goes here, the links go here, and it's very generic. They just fill in different pictures, fill in different copy, fill in different places, and then ta-da, here you go. There's not a whole lot of thought going on as far as, is this the right locations that we have, built for? Is this the right services? kind of going back to what you said before, pest control is just pest control. Well, actually, it's not. Each one's different in their own little way. So it's, meaningful to each business that they be seen in a unique way online and have their solutions built to meet their needs, not just one size fits all for each and every business that ever existed. So it's important to have that customization or personalization.
So I'm sorry I interrupted because you used that, and I want to make sure that I understood kind of where that line to distinguish between the two. So please keep telling me that story. I want to hear more.
So he was doubtful when I shared with him what we did differently, how it was different, and those sort of things. But given some of the other clients that I shared with him and the results that they had gotten, he took a chance. And he was really, really pleased that he did, because he finally had a marketing company that he knew had his back and was going to work to make sure that he had the right results for his business. And 2 years later, he's still happy and things are still continuing to grow. When I share his results and numbers with other people, they are blown away because it is night and day compared to what he started with and where he is now.
So share some of those numbers with me. How has he measured success? I mean, and you, of course, don't tell us who it is, but just tell us kind of generically what it was that happened.
You put me on the spot. I don't remember all the numbers.
I just
know we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand sort of scope and magnitude, what people should look for, because I mean, I know some people when they come in, they want to, 100x return on their investment. Well, I don't know that those kind of things really exist all that often.
Yeah.
By the same time, if you're spending $100 and you're only getting $102 back, well, I don't know if that's a good use of your time either and your money.
Well,
right?
I mean, $2
it depends,
more,
right? Yeah.
But it does depend because the different services and products are different pricing. So if someone is, selling something that's like $12, there's a whole lot more of that needs to be sold than somebody that's selling something that's $750, right? So what we normally say is about between 3 and 6 to 1 against the budget that you're spending is what your return should be as a healthy budget. But I've seen clients that are making way more than 3 or 6 to 1 because their products are just expensive. So if it's a roof replacement, you sell one, that should be a pretty healthy return on any investment you've done for your marketing. But that doesn't mean that they want to stop with one. So for that particular industry, you're going to want to see 50, 100, few hundred leads per day, per week, per month. It depends on the business, because if it's a one family owned, one little crew, they're not going to want the same results as somebody that has 15 locations and 15 crews. So, there's always that customization feature that you have to think about what is going to work for them, because you definitely don't want to overmarket for a business that can't handle it, because then that goes to make them look like they can't help their community. So it's important to know each and every business very specifically as far as what do they want from their marketing. It may not be what their competitor wants. They may want totally different things, and you have to look at the goals that the company has set forth. So to say, X number is what you can expect from X or Y, I couldn't tell you, because it really depends on each and every individual business as far as what do they need and what do they want and where should we go from here.
Yeah, I think I was asking more from the point of view of, and I think on what you're saying makes sense to me, right? Because the research depends on who you're focused on and the message and what you want to sell. And there's too many variables to be able to just say it's 5, right?
Yeah.
I think I was asking more from a point of view of kind of what does that journey in success look like? I mean, where did they start? I mean, they had 5 people who were coming by the website. They got the message right. They got the right demographic. They started to focus on. They chose they're selling to consumers, so they're not spending time on LinkedIn. They're spending time on Facebook, for example.
Right.
And as a result of that, they went from 5 to 15, or I don't know, right? Is that what the journey looks like for people?
The journey looks like a curve going upward, hopefully, where you're reaching what one of my colleagues calls it climbing Mount Google, because you want to get your organic ranking higher and higher on Google. But it's not just that. Marketing as a whole is a lot like investing. You want diversification because you don't want to put all of your hopes and dreams into one place when you're missing out on this whole other picture. So
Right.
it's very important to really see the whole picture and how that can help you, and then look into those numbers and see what's been working. A good mix of diversified marketing is going to have, some traffic from social, some traffic from direct typing in the information, some traffic from referrals, paid ads. There's tons of different things that it could be going into that to determine how you're being found the best or what's working the best for you. So there's a lot of different factors in a lot of different places. So it's really important though to diversify, because you can focus on one thing, but what are you missing in the process?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, you got to go where meet your customers where they are. So if some of them hang out on Facebook and some of them hang out on Twitter, well, then you got to be in Twitter and you got to be in Facebook,
Right.
both, right?
If
And
that's
I think that's what you mean, right? In terms of diversify, right? And the platforms that you may use to do that. Some people want to go research on the web. Some people don't care about that and they're on Facebook on their Facebook app all the time, and that's where they will live. Uh,
exactly.
okay,
Um,
gotcha.
and another component of that is what content are you sharing with your audience and where? Is it just words, or are you actually focusing on the most utilized media, which is video? Video is huge. It's I think 78% of people watch video online every week, and I don't know, 80 some percent are increasing the value of your website by having video on there, because about 88% more traffic is on your, or stays longer. Sorry, that's what it is. They stay longer on your website if you have video, which makes sense, because if you have a, 2 or 3 minute video, they're going to stay 2 or 3 minutes if they're engaged in the video content you have out there. So it's really super important to have that component checked off in your marketing, because people are visual learners and they like to see action.
So based on what you've gone through, tell me how does someone get started with you? I mean, if they have got an interest, where can they jump in? Do they have to be at that I don't know what I'm doing stage and I really need help, or can where can they start? Where can they jump in?
Anywhere, anytime. What I do initially with my clients is a free consultation. So I do a lot of the research on the front end, and I look to see how are things being represented online. I provide them with that analysis. We talk about, all of the things that they need to think through with their target demographics, their geography, their competition. I put it all together and we discuss what next best steps there are for them. If it makes sense to partner with us, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, for whatever reason, then I'm just happy to have helped them learn a little bit of what they can do themselves on their next best steps. So it's a journey for sure. But whether they're starting fresh with a brand new business, or they've been established for a really long time and they already have a marketing company, it's a good way to keep that marketing company, you know, accountable for what they've promised. Because if there are things that are missing, then I can share that with them. Not trying to, have my competitors be called out, but at the same time, yeah, they need to be called out and held accountable for what they're being paid for. And as far as, the new businesses getting started, happy to help them get started with the website, social media, SEO, web marketing, the full gamut.
Um, this is this again very interesting. I always again every time I talk to you, Kim, I always get something out of it.
Good.
And gosh, you packed that all into an hour, and which is a lot of stuff there. Um, I appreciate the fact that you spent some time. And Gerald, thanks for chiming in and adding some value to the conversation. Thank you for that, doing that, Gerald. Kim, I wanted to just say thanks. We're going to take this, we're going to slice it up and put it out on the podcast, on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify. You'll be able to find it in all those places, as well as Google Podcasts, also on the our YouTube channel. You'll
Okay.
be able to come and see. I mean, this is live now, so as soon as I hit the end stream button, it's posted on YouTube for all eternity. So you'll be able to learn from Kim every single time. Um, and I'll be sending that to you here shortly afterwards, anyway, Kim. But thank you for some sharing some time and dropping some knowledge and learnings from all the years you've been doing this.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks much, Kim. Talk to you soon.
Okay.